Hi guys, and welcome to the fourth episode of Seeds of Faith. I am really excited to be with you here today. There is something I've been thinking about for a few days now, and so I'm really glad to be able to share it with you today. Please come with me in chapter 5 of Mark. And we'll be reading the second part of the chapter, starting in verse 21. Now I will summarize the beginning of the second half of the chapter. What happens is that Jesus is surrounded by a crowd, and he hears someone asking him, "Please come and heal my little daughter, because she's really sick." So we can say from the start that this man has some sort of faith in Jesus, right? Because otherwise he wouldn't go to ask him to go and heal his daughter. He believes that Jesus has the power through God to be able to heal. So this is kind of a sandwich where the first and the bottom are connected, while in the middle there is something a bit different. What happens while Jesus is going to this man's house to heal his daughter is that he meets someone else. So in the way there are a lot of people, somebody's touching his cloth, and Jesus turns around and there is this woman. Now this woman's faith is really big, to the point that she thought, if I only touch his cloth, I will be healed. And this is a woman that for 12 years had been suffering from a terrible bleeding. She had a bleeding that couldn't be cured by any doctor, and she had been trying every cure, everything that was possible, but nothing could cure her. So the fact that she believed in Jesus healed her. And Jesus turned around, and we can read in verse 34, Jesus says, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." So already at this point I'm amazed, because this is wonderful. And now let's continue and get to the bottom of the sandwich, where the top piece and the bottom piece are connected, because the story of the little girl is continuing. In fact, Jesus is only on his way to the house. Now when he gets to the house, there is a lot of commotion. People outside are crying and screaming, and they are saying that the little girl has died. So they are telling the father of the daughter, don't worry about asking the teacher to come here. Your daughter is now dead, and there is nothing you can do about it. But Jesus hears them, and he says, verse 36, "Don't be afraid, just believe." Remember those words, guys. Jesus says, don't be afraid, just believe. Don't be afraid, just believe. When he gets to the house of the little girl, he still sees all the people outside in great commotion. Jesus says something. He says in verse 39, "The child is not dead, but asleep." And so the people around Jesus think, this man is crazy. What is he saying? The girl is not sleeping. She's dead. She's not breathing anymore. At this point, they probably think that Jesus is out of his mind. And we know that their reaction is rather funny, because at verse 40, it says that they laughed at him. They laughed at Jesus because they did not believe that he could see her asleep and not dead. And this made me think of something really important. This made me the situations we find ourselves in sometimes, a situation in which everybody around us thinks that we are dead. And when I say dead, I mean spiritually. Everybody around us thinks that we are far away from God and there is nothing that can be done. But Jesus wants to tell you that you're not dead, you're just asleep. And falling asleep is so easy. You know why? Because sometimes we interrupt connections with God, to God. We connect to Him and with Him through prayer. I was recently reading a very good book. It's called Keys of Spiritual Growth by John MacArthur. And I really like this book because it talks about all the different keys. That's the way he calls him to be able to grow spiritually. And one of them is prayer. And in the book itself, the prayer chapter that indicates a very key verse in Ephesians chapter 6, and the verse is 18. It says, "And pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests." The Italian version says, "Pray in all times." It means that we should be praying always, all the time, because it's through prayer that we can connect with God. It's through prayer that we can go to our Holy Father and ask Him what our heart desires, what our heart is thinking, and give Him the glory and give Him our requests so that He can fulfill them. I find myself in this story sometimes because being far away from God can happen so easily. And in the same book I just mentioned before, there is a part in that chapter that talks about prayer that says that sometimes we alienate ourselves from God and we don't pray when we need it the most. Why don't we pray? And he mentions a couple of circumstances in which we avoid praying, and one of those is sin. We don't pray when we are in sin because God's presence is holy, because God is sinless and God is pure. So when we are in sin, we don't want to go there. That's the place we want to be as far as possible from, because we don't want to go where it's pure, because we know that we are in sin. So we don't pray. And that only causes a terrible effect. And it's a vicious circle in which prayer becomes difficult and we take our distances from God because we don't want to go at His feet. We feel that we are too impure to go and ask God to forgive our sins, or maybe we just don't want to admit it to ourselves. And the story of the little girl tells us another important thing, which is faith. Yes, it's faith because the woman that was healed from her 12 years of bleeding had faith, had the faith that Jesus was going to be able to cure her and heal her completely from what she was suffering from. And then the man, the father of the little girl, had another type of faith, which was the faith that Jesus was going to be able to heal his little daughter, but only if she was alive. So this is what I would call a conditioned faith, a faith that is not 100%, but is something around 75-80%. Jesus can heal my daughter, but she has to be alive for Him to heal her. That's not how Jesus thinks. That's not how God works. God doesn't work with ifs and maybes. God is a miraculous God, and He can do anything that He wants to do because He has the power to do so. And that's when we are getting further into the story in verse 41. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around. You may ask why I love this story so much. It's because I identify with this little girl, although I have almost twice her age, and I'm not as little, and I'm not dead physically, and I'm not dead spiritually neither, but there are times in my life that I fall asleep. and I put that in quotes. I fall asleep because I also alienate from God, and I'm also in a situation in which I'm more distant, and I pray less, and I see that what I'm feeding myself is not seeds of faith, and it's not seeds of grace, and it's not seeds of peace, but it's something else, something that is not as holy and pure as it should be, something that makes me feel distant from God. But how will God respond to that? I love that Jesus will come and take me by the hand. And this is really an encouragement for each one of you to believe that you're not dead. Whatever circumstance you're in this moment, you're not dead. You've just fallen asleep. And Jesus is coming to take you by the hand and solve your problems. I just want you to know that even if your spirit is now being lazy and you feel like you're not as energetic and vital and vibrant as you used to be, you're not dead. You're alive. You're alive. And I want to motivate you to forget about whatever things that have made you fall asleep. And we're living in a situation right now that is touching the whole world, and we're living in fear, we're living in anxiety. A lot of us are fighting against those lies, and I call them lies because Jesus is telling you the truth, and the truth is that He can heal you. The truth is that He can save you, and He has done that, and He has done that by dying on the cross for you. So all you need to do is forget about whatever situation you are in, whatever thing that is making you suffer, that is making you feel weak, that is making you feel like you can't do it, and believe in God, believe in Jesus, and have a strong faith that says, I can do it. I can do it because I have Jesus. And nothing is impossible to Him. Nothing. I love it because He can do everything, and nothing is too big or too far away or too impossible or too difficult for Jesus. All you need to do is put your faith in Him and trust that He will heal you. Trust that He will give you a new spirit. Don't be asleep. Whatever circumstance you're in, don't be asleep. Maybe you are believing in the lies of anxiety and the lies of fear and the lies of depression and the lies of impossibility. Whatever circumstance you're in, Jesus is coming to heal you, and He's taking you by hand. He's taking you by hand. He's giving you reassurance. How beautiful is that? God is not slapping you in the face and saying, wake up. He's taking you by hand and bringing you out of your depression, out of your anxiety, out of your fear, out of your disease. God can do that. He has that power. All you need to do is have faith. Like that woman that was bleeding for 12 years. I'm not sure what 12 means here. I've done a little bit of research, and 12 means to be complete. Something that is complete. And I associate that to being complete in Jesus. It's only with Him that we can reach perfection, that we can be like Jesus was, perfect. And that is our ambition. And that is part of what I really believe in, that we can reach that high level of faith, but we need to wake up. We need to wake up. So if there is a part of you that is still sleeping, if your spirit hasn't decided yet, is with one foot in one shoe and the other foot in another type of shoe, well, I recommend you to change your shoes. Because today is the day you're going to wake up. Today is the day that God is coming to take you by the hand and bring you out of your tunnel. He has that power. You just need to believe in Him, have faith, and you'll be healed. Like that bleeding woman, like that little girl. May God bless all of us today. And I pray that our spirit can become stronger and stronger, and that we will be able to show our light to the world.